So our Tuesday Notary Tune-Up topic is Notary Public versus Notario, a deep dive. And we will be covering this with our special guest speaker, Lydia Meneses Martinez. She has been a notary since 2017, and she is passionate about serving the Hispanic community, where she's able to educate others on a lot of the information that being she's bilingual is very helpful, which I'm at a disadvantage in that regard because I only speak and understand English fluently. However, she understands both, and she is truly an asset to the community when they need documents notarized and being able to help them know exactly where they need to go if there's something she can't assist them with. So, without further ado, let's introduce Lydia Meneses Martinez, and I want to go over a few questions with her so that you'll be a little bit more aware of some of the things that she has been covering and been able to share in her walk as a notary public along her journey. So, welcome, Lydia.
Thank you, Ms. Belinda.
So, I would like to go over a part one. There's different sections that we're going to cover today. The first part is the cultural disconnect. So, Lydia, based on your experience, why is there such a massive misunderstanding in the Hispanic community regarding what a notary public can actually do versus a notario?
Um, I would like to provide a specific definition for a notary public in Mexico and Latin America countries, so we can understand why the misconception from the United States and other countries. So
All right.
the definition is a notary public is a legal professional vested with public authority by the state who provides certain legal security, legal acts, events, and documents such as wills, sales agreements, and power of attorney. They are lawyers independent of the public authorities who draft the given legal form to the will of the parties involved. And compared to notaries here in the United States, where we only take a class, they are required to take university courses. You know,
Mhm.
it's not something like us that we take just two classes and we get
Right.
they actually have to do kind of like a lawyer
Okay.
course sort of thing. While in the United States, a notary public is only a public official appointed by the state government to serve as impartial witness, preventing fraud by verifying the identity and willingness and competence of the individual signing the important documents. So that
Okay.
already set is a such big difference compared to the USA and other Latin
Right.
America countries. Um, so that's why a lot of Hispanic people or people from other countries besides United States have the belief that when they see notary public, you're able to
Hmm.
do a lot of attorney paperwork that we're not be able to do.
Correct. Because it sounds like it's equivalent to an attorney when it comes to your the country
Mhm.
where that term is actually known as notario. That does have a different meaning altogether. Even though the translation equals notary, it's still a difference when it comes to the position a person holds in the United States versus in the Latin American countries that uses a notario for legal purposes beyond just notary public, because I do understand that it can do more than what we do as a witness as a public official here. So we're going to go on to the next question. When a Spanish speaking client sees a bilingual notary sign, what are they typically expecting in terms of legal services, and how does that clash with our North Carolina duties? So this will give us a little bit more insight.
I mean, in my personal opinion, with the different clients I have met throughout these years, most of the time when they see that, they expect for me to be able to draft legal letters for them
Mm,
to send it to their home countries, or be able to provide like a legal sell a bill, that kind of stuff. And obviously that crashes with what is permitted in NC law, because we're not able to do that. That's already considered an attorney, you know.
correct.
So unfortunately, we're not able to do it. And some people think that by me denying to do it, I'm considered like a stuck up person or a person that's not willing to help my community. But for that reason, I like to emphasize for people that is bilingual the importance of having the definition around your office. So you can
Right.
point it out to them and be like, well, if you're from Central America, Mexico, whatever, this is what a notary public is able to do. Unfortunately, in the United States, we're only able to do this. And I mean, once they understand that, it does make a difference because they understand why you're not able to do what they're requesting.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. So, going through what they see when it comes to signage, we're going to lead to part two, the advertising and the language guardrails. So, we often see notaries translating their titles literally on business cards or social media. In your view, why is the term notario so dangerous to use in North Carolina advertising?
It's dangerous because it's already providing misconception of what is the meaning between what is in their home country to what it is in the United States. So that's already creating the misconception. And then the other thing is that we have to understand that due to cultural differences, some of these people are unfortunately not even educated besides elementary school. And most of the time they only have went to like first grade to third grade. And especially if they were like the first child, most of the time they had to drop out of school to help take care of their siblings. So sometimes the people coming in requesting this type of documents is because somebody told them you need this, but they're not even quite sure why they need it or what they're requesting. They just know they have to get this document. So sometimes
Right.
it's important to also take the time to kind of understand your client and learn why they're requesting that if you're willing to help them, you know.
Okay. And again, that's definitely information I was unaware of. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other notaries are really unaware of it as well. So this has very been enlightening when it comes to cultural barriers. And it's not just in the Hispanic community. There's so many other cultures that I've come across where there's probably a disconnect in the same level just because of us being unaware of what their history is and their background when they're just wanting to get something notarized based on the document that they present to us. Um, so, with my next question, if a notary is fluent in Spanish, they might feel it's easier to just translate the certificate for the client. What are the risks of performing a notarial act using a certificate that isn't in English, based on what our North Carolina General Statute says?
Well, to my knowledge, we're not able to notarize if the certificate is not in English. That certificate has to be in English by law. The document itself, when I first started, I thought everything had to be in English, because we're in America. But
Right.
after talking to the Secretary of State, they told me no, you can notarize it as long as the certificate is in English. So that was kind of to me off, but it is you're able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the certificate has to be in English. But sometimes I feel like it's one of those things where we don't want to be ugly to them, but at the same time, I feel like as notaries, we have to protect our integrity first. And like I
Right.
tell some of these people, I mean, I'm not able to do what you're requesting me because I can only charge you $10 for the stamp. And I'm sorry, but $10 is not going to pay the fine that the state is going to provide me, or the felony charges, or whatever the case be. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
I'm not
Right.
risking my family just for $10. So once people understand that it's not just something that you do and there's no consequence, sometimes they're like, oh, I didn't know this. And you kind of educate them because they were not aware of that, because once again it comes down to the definition of what they're used to in their home country. That's the difference here. But
Right.
as long as the notarial section is in English, I'm aware that we can do it.
That is correct. Also, that's when we can use a blue certificate as well. If the certificate is not in English, we can give the option for them to choose a blue certificate, whether it's the acknowledgement or jurat that we may have in excess, where I carry quite a few with me with my tools. So in situations similar to a certificate not being worded correctly or in a different language, that can still allow us to move forward with the notarization once they choose. And of course, if they choose a jurat, then I need to offer, if they want to be administering an oath or an affirmation, because that's what a direct recall calls for. You have to administer an oath or an affirmation. And so then they make a choice of how they want to take an oath with raising their right hand. And then I administer that to them to move on with them signing before me. And then, of course, me notarizing the document thereafter. Of course, as notaries, we also are responsible for making sure we staple that little certificate at the back of the documents to complete that process. So you need to always add these tools as well with everything else you have with your seal is a stapler, and a staple removal just in case. So again, those are things that I try to make sure that I keep on my person when I'm conducting any notarization. And of course, our manual. So we're now have our 2026 manual publication. That is the one that we need to have in our possession and no longer the 2016. So if you have not purchased your 2026 manual yet, please do, because June 1st is the deadline that we are required to have it in hand. And again, this is regulated by the statutes when it comes to having the most current notary manual. And that can be actually um, accessible at any of or many of the bookstores for the community colleges, as well as you can order it online through the UNC Student of Government website. And I'll drop that in the description so that you will have access to that information. So when it comes to what happens to the impartiality of a notary when they start acting as a translator for a principal during a transaction, can you lead a little bit more on to how that may be a compromise?
Well, I feel like it's one of those lines that is easily to be crossed over. That's why it's important to let the person know the differences between the notaries in their home countries and what it is here. And I personally translate for people, but depending on the situation, sometimes I make them sign a paper that says I'm being hired only to translate, not to provide legal advice, not to provide any type of advice in any shape or form, because then that would put me down as me acting as an attorney or something like that. So I make them understand that we have to keep things differently, because it's easy for them. Well, she's the notary and she also did translate me. No, you know, we did two different roles. Right now, I'm just a translator, not a notary. And I feel like if you can explain that to your client, then you can provide a service that is considered impartially. But if you're not able to educate your client to know the difference, that you want me to go with you to the doctor visit, I'm just there to translate. If the doctor says hey, I'm just gonna say hey. I'm not gonna tell you say she say hey and respond back, hey, how you doing? No, that's not my job.
Right.
I'm just translating word for word. And sometimes, it sounds kind of cold shoulder for other people because that's what they have told me. But unfortunately, that's what you have to do because you have to protect yourself at all time. I feel like the integrity and the Honesty for a notary public sets high standards. So if you're not able
Hmm.
to provide that, then everything in your career kind of starts being questionable.
Correct. And with that, for the audience to understand, there is a difference between someone that's bilingual translating in a situation where they may be communicating with someone's doctor, a teacher. But when it comes to other levels, if they're getting paid for translation, they do have to have a certification in such. And again, I'll drop that information to be more in depth on how that works, so that you will understand how it works in the court system, maybe even at the airlines when they have translators for the customers that's coming from different international borders. So this can actually be, again, very helpful on understanding how that actually play a part in a role when it comes to non-payment versus being paid. So we're going to move on to part three, the practice of law and community protection. So, Lydia, where is the fine line between being a helpful bilingual resource and accidentally engaging in the unauthorized practice of law?
For one thing, because I personally have gone through it many times, it's very difficult, Belinda. Like, to be honest, it's very difficult
Okay.
because sometimes people open up to you and they tell you, "Well, I'm going through this, I'm going through that," and as
Yeah.
notaries, I feel like we have that sense of always willing to help. So it's kind of hard to kind of sometimes put ourselves like, I
Yeah.
can't do it because it's hard, especially for me because I come from a background where my parents are first time immigrants. So most of the times when they're requesting this, I'm like, at one point my parents went through that or my grandparents went through that. So it's hard for me to
Okay.
say, but I feel that's why it's very important to kind of learn to know the difference when you're actually given resources for them to find the way, even though you already know what is the correct answer, but you can't just
Yes.
say it, you know? So I think once you kind of know that that's the most, like, for example, they come there, well, I'm selling my trailer to my cousin, but I want to make it legal. I know they need a bill of sale, and I know what the bill of sale needs to say, but I'm not a real estate lawyer. So the most I can do is provide them, look, around town, you live here in Henderson? Yes. I pull Google, give them all the real estate attorneys around. I'm like, there are like five of them. You can call them, schedule an appointment. And most of the time, I know some of them personally because I work in the bank. And so I'll be like, if you talk to this person, they already have a translator on site. Or if you
Hmm.
know this, if you call this, be aware that you're going to have to take somebody. I let them know what they need, but I can provide and say, yeah, they're going to draft you, they're going to charge you 150, it's all going to be good. No, because then
Right.
I feel that's considered, legal advice. So,
Correct. And you can also, as an alternative, point them in the direction of the Department of Motor Vehicle, because when you're dealing with any mobile property, mobile homes are equivalent to a car. When you're looking at a MVR 191 form, which is the certificate of title. So for this particular example, that would be the actual type of document here in North Carolina that is required for someone to actually transfer the title into someone else's name for that mobile home. So again, DMV is the point of reference. It becomes more of a real estate situation when there's no wheels and it's actually going to be stationary onto property where it could be bricked in or things of that nature. So again, that kind of helps them understand what the difference is, on how they may want to sell the property, or even if they're interested in buying one. That would be the type of document that needs to be notarized. And a bill of sale, of course, is always encouraged for them to have when there's money exchanged. And of course, again, DMV will be where they will end up with all the paperwork to take care of that transfer. And then we know that you have certain ID documents are common in community, but aren't actually legal for us to use for notarization. How do you handle the conversation when a client presents an ID that is especially forbidden by the manual, specifically the matricula consuela card?
Well, I provide them once again what the law says, which is unfortunately only passports allow. With North Carolina does not allow anything else than just passport for people from different other countries. And I feel like at this question also brings my I would like to bring attention to the other issue that is going on that maybe the Secretary of State don't know. But some of these countries don't even have a consular station in the state. So, for example, Colombian people they have to travel all the way to Maryland just to get an appointment or get their passport. And this is where I feel some of these people are falling between the cracks because they can't get a notarization because they don't have a passport. They can't get a passport because sometimes they request them in notarized type of document saying, yes, my name is Miguel Flores or,
Okay.
Lucy Mendez. They can provide, we can't do that for them because they don't have a passport and their consul requires that type of form to be notarized. But how can we notarize? You
If they
know,
don't
and
have the proper
yeah,
ID.
and
Yeah.
some of these consuls they're not uh, talking to the state or to the United States to understand the difference between the notaries in their home countries and the notaries here. And I feel that is a misconception already too. And that's why people is tending to believe that we can do it because higher authorities are saying just go with notary, but they can't just come with
Mm,
notary. So they're already in between the cracks because they don't know where to go. They just kind of like, well, I'm here, and
right.
unfortunately, sometimes depending on the country they're born, sometimes they even have to wait 2 3 weeks just to get an appointment, just to be told you need this, but they can provide that. So
Right. And I know that, of course, when we're dealing with satisfactory evidence, we have several different options. So again, if the state ID is not something they have, and then your passport, again, we can accept foreign passports. The question is if they actually do have that as an option for the identity. And if they don't, then of course the next options would be if there's a notary that personally know them, where they may have grew up together or they actually work together, but they really know them when it comes to their name, what they do as far as a profession, their family orientation, and their family when it comes to children, spouses, parents. So that is another way that we as a notary public can still help someone if they don't have the physical ID, but if we really do actually know them personally, or if there's a credible witness that knows the notary very well as the notary knowing them to trust them giving and vouching for the principal signer in this case that may not have the proper identification. So that again are other options that we can actually rely on if those are available. But as you stated, they can be challenging when there is this disconnect, where they can actually get access to certain information. And it goes back to aposties. So, as a notary public, of course, we have to properly identify the signer, but if they're wanting to send documents to their country of origin, then many times they do have to make sure it goes to the additional steps to be apostilled at the Secretary of State level. If it's a non-Hague country, then yes, it has to go through the State Department or the federal Department of State, which is in Maryland, or DC. So when you're talking about Hague and non-Hague countries, those are the processes when there's additional documents that needs to be honored and notarized. We have to have the notarizations of the documents first, then go to the Secretary of State to the authentication department for them to actually do their portion of authenticating or apostille the document so they can actually move forward with their affairs. So that is something that, again, are additional steps. And as a notary, again, we're always going to be a part of that equation. And we can also take on the responsibility of facilitating and been a courier to take the documents to the Secretary of State. So that's an additional option for notaries to offer more services as a separate fee that doesn't have anything to do with them being a notary. And that is something that, again, we can cover more later. But yeah, that is something that some notaries are not fully aware of what is the processes. But to your point of, again, a disconnect, that may be something that the Secretary of State can actually look into further as far as if they can help on a different level that I'm not sure of because of different rules and regulations. But that is something that I am aware of when it comes to what notaries have the option to do as additional services offered. Um, when we have the ability to communicate with the customer on the level of notarizing the documents first. But again, it is a challenge based on what you have described that, again, a lot of us are completely unaware of, and it's good to know that it's something that is a concern. So when others run into this, hopefully there's going to be a point of reference that we can actually share with the principal signers of where they may be able to go to get more assistance. And again, that's going to be something that is probably going to have to be looked into for a while to discover what can be a possible solution. And so now we're reaching to part four, accountability and professionalism. So if a notary is caught misleading the public, even if they thought they were just helping, what kind of disciplinary actions can they face from the Secretary of State?
I think it depends on the level of the crime or the situation to know. But I know for a fact that if find you guilty, you lose your commission and even possible criminal charges. And that's why I feel honesty is very important, because I feel like if you
Oh,
have
yeah.
honesty with your client, then everything can move forward because they're aware of what you're allowed to do and what you can't do. But if you're already kind of proven or misleading the customer, making him or her believe that you can do more than what you're able to do, then that's where everything starts being the problem.
You got that right. It can be anywhere from a misdemeanor to a felony one, and I don't want those problems. And I hope they don't either, because
I don't think nobody really has the money with this economy to face that type of problem.
exactly. So you have situations where, again, they can have their commission suspended while they're being investigated, and depending on the level of crime that was committed, then they can actually have it revoked, where it's completely removed, and that can be something that cannot be unrecovered from. So, to your point of possible criminal actions, they could actually have imprisonment. So, there's a lot of different things where if a notary is doing something intentionally versus not intentional, it does make a difference. However, it still can be an end result of losing your commission. So, educating yourselves on what you need to know, reading the manual is the first thing. Understanding how to break down the general statutes is the other, as well as the administrative code for the state of North Carolina. And again, asking the right questions, talking to the Secretary of State, anyone from the North Carolina Notary Association, or myself, and you can possibly be very helpful to get the right answers when we can show them where it is in statutes for the answer itself. Because again, it's not what we say, it's what the legislation has in writing. So we have to follow what the law says to know that we can feel confident in what we're doing without stressing about, oh my goodness, am I going to get in trouble?
Trouble. Definitely. And I mean, it's kind of like I said, it's kind of hard because sometimes you want to help, but you feel like your arms are tired. Like I can't do more, you know.
Right.
And I feel like, especially for me, I can speak for myself. I'm very as a first child of I'm first grandchild, so it was always Lydia. You learn how to do this because such and such aunt needs it, or Lydia do this because we need to figure out. So you're always kind of like in the mentality like I need to find out, like I need to do this, you know. And sometimes,
Get a point of reference.
even though you hear people's problems, you kind of have to be like, and that's why when I don't even know why, but God had a process for me to be a notary because I wasn't looking for it when I was working at the bank. They're just like, well, you're bilingual. They keep coming. You keep coming to translate. Might as well get your commission. But once I got the commission, it was kind of like, wait a minute, like I had to stop myself sometimes because I'm already a very outgoing person, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, my husband laughs at me because he's like, you kind of look like you somebody just put like a wall in your face. I'm like, yeah, because I feel like if I said what I was thinking, I was gonna cross the line. So sometimes,
Right.
yeah. So sometimes I'm like, give me a second. You know, I tell the client, give me a second. I have to get my thoughts together because my personally is like for me to go ahead and blurt the answer. But if I blurt the answer, they might come back and be like, well, you told me this. And then, you know, if they say it to an attorney or somebody else, they might think that I was already misguiding them. And I'm like, oh my God, I'll be freaking out.
Right.
So I think it's very important to also take your time as a bilingual notary to kind of get your thoughts together because, like, for example, my first language is Spanish, so my brain already translated everything
Right.
back to Spanish. And when you're I have met other bilingual notaries that their first language is English, you know, so
Mhm.
their brain is the opposite, but sometimes they still kind of like in the rush to throw the information out there because that's how your brain is processing. But we have to kind of learn to take a moment and get
Mhm.
our thoughts together before saying it out. You know.
And that's I'm glad you actually share that because um, I know that many times we have thoughts that we definitely don't need to speak on, right?
Yeah.
And so just having that moment of just slowing down and just say, okay, should I say this or should I not?
Yeah. Not.
So being able to discipline ourselves almost in every situation is helpful for us to again make sure we understand the question and then know exactly how to respond because answering the question itself may not be the correct thing to do if it would be considered unauthorized practice of law. This is something I also encourage notaries to do when speaking to anyone or putting information publicly when it comes to content is to put the disclaimer to say I am not an attorney to practice law in North Carolina. I cannot accept fees or money for advice. So that again, coming from the beginning of a conversation or reading information is very clear. The notary is saying they are notary public. However, we're not also an attorney unless you are both. But again, for those of us that are non-attorneys, we do want to cover ourselves, protect ourselves, and the public that we serve to let them know up front who we are not. So yes, I can appreciate that.
Yes.
And so we're coming across our last question. So Lydia, what is your number one piece of advice for bilingual notaries who want to serve the Hispanic community with integrity while staying 100% compliant with the North Carolina Notary Act?
Well, I think throughout the whole interview that we've been doing, I feel like you can tell that my first number one advice will be honesty. You know, honesty of what you can do and what you can't do. I feel that goes a long way, and the best way to help other people is to know your resource, the resources that is available in your area. That way, you can provide better guidance, and that's why I think it's important for other notaries to like myself, kind of sometimes shied about it, but learned that networking with attorneys or different type of lawyers also help not just your career, but when people are coming to you with different situations, and just like myself, feel like your hands are tied, you know who they should, or point them at least to what direction they should be going to. And in that kind of sense, I feel that provides some type of peace, because even though you feel like you should do more, but because law does not allow us to do more, at least you putting them in the
Mhm.
correct path. And maybe if they would have gone to a different person, they would never got it. So I
Right.
feel like some type of guidance is better than nothing. And I know the journey as Notary Public is not that big economically, but I feel like it's a process where you learn to meet different people of different paths. And we have to understand that not everybody is educated at the same level that we might be. So it's
Right.
important to also take that in consideration. And when you're talking to people from other countries, kind of know their little bit of background, because sometimes it's important to be able to know if they're being financially, abused, or they're going through something that they're not even aware. They just know they told them go get it notarized. And
Right.
sometimes me as a bilingual, I know about the law, we are not required to read the paper. But because I talk to them and I can see that they're already not even aware of what the document is, then sometimes I pause myself and I'll be like, I'm sorry, I cannot go with the notorious section because you're not even aware of what you actually gonna sign. So I feel like that extra step that we can do sometimes makes a difference in people's lives.
Now, with that, we cannot interpret for someone, we can't explain a document, but we are able to read a document. If someone says, can you read this for me? Just sometimes the comprehension is different from when they may read it versus hearing someone else read it to them. If they start asking questions, okay, so what does this mean? Well, then that's the part that we have to pause on, to let them know they need to have legal counsel. So, for like some seniors that I've worked with, they know they need to have a document notarized. If they don't have someone with them, when they come to me, and they, again, they can comprehend, they are able to sign the document. Then if they say, well, and of course, I have to ask the questions. Are you signing this willingly? Do you understand the documents? And based on their response, and if they say, I'm just know that I'm supposed to get this notarized. And if they ask, well, do you mind reading this so I can actually make sure I know what this is? Then I can actually read it to them. But that's just me reading exactly what the content is on the paper and not explaining anything. So, at that point, after I read it to them and ask, do you want to move forward? Do you understand what I just read? And if they can say yes, and then maybe sum it up in their own words, then that, to me, I can move forward with the notarization based on me making sure they comprehend, they're competent, they're willingly actually signing this, and they're not under duress. Those are important for us to ask those types of probing questions to make sure, based on us serving and protecting from fraud or forgery, that that kind of covers what we can feel confident in doing to move forward. And if those things don't all check off, then at that moment I have to decline, just because I feel they are maybe not really understanding what they need to sign. And again, it's not me to interpret anything other than to say, you've already shared with me that you're not sure. So please, make sure you are able to go over the documents with someone else that can go over the details of this with you, to answer any other questions you may have that I cannot answer. And then later, if you still want to move forward with the notarization, please do call me and we can schedule another time, and date to actually do this. So that way, again, we can cover everything with what we can and cannot do in that setting as a notary public, but let them know that they do need to have someone else that can assist them, whether it's legal counsel or someone in their family that can hopefully answer those questions and go over more detail that we cannot.
That's right.
So, Lydia, I appreciate your time with us going over Notary Public versus Notario because, again, it can be confusing in the language change of what those definitions are in English versus Spanish. And I would love to let other notaries um, gain access to you. We have our Confident Notaries of North Carolina Facebook group that you are a part of. We do our Tuesday Notary Tune-Ups weekly. However, if they want to reach out to you, is there a specific number they can call or email address, just in case you have other bilingual notaries that just want to actually speak with you to kind of get some help with advice, or in a situation where there may be a notary like myself that's in your county because you're in Wake County, correct?
Benz County. Well, I'm like
Which one?
30, Benz County. I'm 30 minutes
Dance.
from Wake.
Okay.
hmm Yeah.
Okay. So
You
if
want?
I was someone in Vance or in the surrounding areas that may have someone that is Spanish speaking only or predominantly, can reach out to you to see if you can actually assist that particular customer when we can't. Is that something that you're open to do when it comes to just having that kind of connection?
Yes. Do you want me to send my phone number? Or you will just put it out there.
If the number you don't mind them calling, you can actually just share it
Okay.
here, and then I'll actually make sure in the comments or description we actually add it.
My phone number is 919-702-4505. Um, Sometimes I'm not good answering the phone because I also have a another business which is a Hispanic grocery store, so I'm always on the go. But if you send me a quick text, I promise you before the end of the day or within the hour, I normally try to get back to you. It just sometimes I'm in the middle with customers or something like that. So my hands are always kind of full, and I'm also a full time mom. So that just makes things a little bit challenging sometimes. But I'm always willing to help. If I'm here, if we can help the community be safer and more educated, I'm willing to be, there to help you do it.
Well, thank you so much for that, Lydia. And yes, she does answer her text messages and her
Yes.
calls when she get a chance. And as you know, we have several different things that we do in general. So yes, having a voicemail system in place is beneficial for you to leave a message and
Yeah.
let the person or let us know your name and your number. If that number that shows up on our call ID is not the number we can return. So we just want to make sure that we don't miss an opportunity to assist you, of course, when you're actually wanting to reach us if you have a need. So, again, thank you, Lydia, for taking the time to actually meet with me again. Our first meeting didn't go well with the recording, but the conversation was explosive. It was really, really good. Those that were able to join us live really did get a lot from it and can appreciate everything that you was able to share and enlighten us on the things we were not aware of. So again, your knowledge is definitely powerful, and just understanding how we can navigate through some of the complexities of language barriers. This has been a true preparation of how we can um, assist others in the future. So thank you again for your time. And for those of you that are actually looking at the replay here on YouTube, please do like our video, share it, subscribe to our channel so you can always get the most update on any other videos that's been uploaded here. And we would love for you to join us if you're a notary here in the state of North Carolina on our Facebook group, which is again the Confident Notaries of North Carolina. And you do want to share your commissioning name so we can make sure we can validate your status. So you can just come and join and hopefully be able to be a part of the live future showings that we have. So, as I always say, always be learning.